to honor my wife and her being the woman behind the man behind the wheel, which is a high calling. Our first date was the day I think I bought that 97 W. I know it was the day I bought that 97 W9. So she didn't know what she was getting into.
This week on the Overdrive Radio podcast for September 8th, 2025, it's part 2 of my talk with August Trucker of the Month, Jason Shelly. With a pristine 2007 Western Star and one of a few refrigerated vans pulling loads bound for multi-stop deliveries and Amish markets up and down the East Coast out of her Telford, Pennsylvania home base. You heard him there with a big shout out to Renita Shelly, his wife and who he calls his biggest fan, as you'll hear in what follows. I'm Todd Dills, and today on the podcast, Shelly builds on the story he told in last week's episode about parts of his family, his experience homeschooling 3 children in part on the truck, principally, with more detail about his longtime owner-operator father's continuing involvement in the business's books and structure, his advice for owner-operators new to the business or those thinking about it, and much more. That'll include here at the top the story of how he and Renita came to be joined in life for the last few decades. Fellow athletes in high school, they'd known each other going way back well before that, but their first date happened when Renita was in college and Jason had just bought his first truck, having foregone a college football scholarship to do it.
I picked her up and we went out to dinner, and she was way out of my league, so I was figuring I got like one date with this girl, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm not going to make it more than what it is. And I told her I just bought a truck, and she said, well, I'll be your biggest fan. And she had no idea what she was getting into. And, now going on 30 years later, she has been the biggest fan. And it's not an easy life. It's schedule-wise and just ups and downs. And, at a certain point, she knew I wasn't going to be home until she saw the whites in my eyes, because anything can happen between here and there. I mean, we make some plans, but there's plenty of them that haven't worked out. And she's just been so patient, so understanding. Going into the second half of my career, I'm trying to be a little bit more, hey, if you want to do this, then I'll take the day off. Or there's some things that if we want to do, I got to take the week off because my load goes out every Tuesday. We can do a lot between Thursday and Monday, but she's just been great that way. She's very independent. But when that something or other happens at home and I'm 400 miles out the road and headed the wrong direction, it's not going to happen. So, I got brother-in-laws that are handy and other friends, and it's just the way it is. You've heard it.
Indeed, and the woman behind the man behind the wheel, the old song title, is apt in so many cases. We can vice versa that in some of them too. Jason and Renita Shelly are certainly making it work and diversifying investments as time goes on that ought to set them up long-term quite well financially. Not that Jason's got a particular eye on retirement, which we'll also hear about more in today's episode.
Biblically, there's no verse that I've ever found in the Bible that says you retire at this age. It says to finish strong.
Owner-operator Jason Shelly, aiming to finish strong. More after the break. Ask any driver. Winter diesel problems don't happen all at once. That's why Howe's Products offers total performance and protection. Diesel Defender cleans and prepares your system so you start off the season strong. Before cold hits, dose up with Diesel Treat to keep fuel flowing all winter long by preventing gelling in even the harshest temps. If you do ever get stuck, Howe's Diesel Lifeline is your rescue, reliquefying gelled fuel fast. With Howe's, you don't just face winter, you beat it. Visit HOWES, HowesProducts.com for more. And here's a big thanks to the Howe's Company for its continued support of Overdrive Radio. Now, Jason Shelly, diving in here to that bit of a tribute to his wife, Renita Shelly. As he told in last week's edition of the podcast, the pair have known each other since grade school, yet they started dating well after high school, right as Shelly was embarking on his first journey in truck ownership.
she was a Division I full scholarship athlete at Temple. She played field hockey,
wow.
which was kind of like an upcoming sport in the 80s and 90s. So she was one of those pioneers. And then she played at the U.S. team level, which is a professional level.
Cool.
So, you know, that fast forward into the next generation of our children. You know, our oldest son competes as a professional motocross, supercross rider for Yamaha. So I kind of know where he got that from, and a lot of hard work. I don't want to take away from him either.
Yeah, there's some genes involved, and you were headed toward a football scholarship. Had you not got the diesel in your blood?
Yeah, how about it? And that, I look back at that decision too, because I was going to college for the wrong reasons. I was going to play football and you know, party, and I think God probably spared me from some heartache by just keeping me focused on, hey, this is what I kind of created you to do. Go do it. So I don't regret that.
You're doing healthy revenue for sure. Looks like you guys are set up as S Corp, so you kind of pay yourself wages, right?
Yep.
It looks like you guys are doing quite well. When you think about tracking your progress and kind of thinking about numbers and such, like, how have you managed that over the years?
Yeah, and I'll be the first to tell you that the numbers are not something that I'm interested in, but I have to be aware of. Thankfully, my dad is an accountant mind. We partnered on that. We're still in that LLC S Corp. I think it's 90 me and 10 him as far as partnership. But I keep him on there because he likes doing the books. He likes doing the billing. He likes to go to the mailbox and see revenue coming in. You know, he's going on 80, so you got to live for something, right? And he still really enjoys it. He still trucks when he has to. So he's been key in that. And even up until recently, my mom did IFTA and fuel taxes, you know, for 40 years. And until Pennsylvania said, hey, we want to do this all electronic, she wanted to do it. And I said, well, that's great, Mom. Go for it. You know, I had a 10,000 foot view on all that. And if there was anything that, you know, was in question, we were all in on that together. But that's how I've managed my little business for the last 30 years. And I've simplified it, just like when I talk about homeschooling, I dumbed down homeschooling to reading, writing, arithmetic, history, and Bible. And probably most importantly, let's learn how to work, because if you know how to work, you'll probably eat, is what I used to tell the kids.
If you missed last week's Overdrive Radio podcast part 1 with owner-operator Shelly, track back to it to hear more about Shelly's story of homeschooling his 3 kids, all now in adulthood, aboard his 2000 Kenworth W900 with a double Eagle big bunk to accommodate the added cargo, as it were, and a fine place for making plenty memories OTR. Clearly, trucking permeates Shelly's life with his family, extending into the nuts and bolts of the business itself. His longtime truck owner-operator father passed on to him a maxim that's functioned as a kind of anchor price when it comes to freight that Shelly's tested through the years, underpinning his success.
As far as business, my dad told me a long time ago, he said, whatever you're paying on fuel, if you can get that per mile, you'll always be all right. And, you know, when fuel was at $5.50 a gallon, that $5.50 a mile freight was hard to come by. But that's kind of been my rule, and I know that's super boiled down, but, you know, it allowed us to be profitable every year, some a whole lot more than others, but it's kept us in business, and it's run a household, and it's allowed me to, you know, have this little hobby of fixing up trucks, and it's allowed us to bless others. You know, tithing is a big part of our household. You know, the first fruits and the 10% go to the church and ministry. So, you know, we've been able to do that. We've never missed, and we're thankful that we have. And just I still think I'm a big rigger. I still want to get, you know, load on a Thursday and be sitting in LA on Monday, but it's not where I'm at. Like, I found this little niche of the 150, the 300 mile round trips, or even like I got a one customer, it's 32 miles round trip, and it's like, really, I could probably do this in my pickup truck, but the revenue's there. And it's just like where I need to be for what we need to generate for our household, along with just used equipment. I've bought a couple new trailers. I've never bought a new truck. In fact, when I was looking for this trailer recently, my wife's like, "Why don't you just go buy a new trailer?" And I took that in. I bought a couple of new trailers over the years, but the market's really good now. There's deals out there on slightly used stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not a new trailer kind of guy, I guess. I'm going to buy something that's beat up a little bit, but structurally and mechanically sound, and we're going to fix it up. I'll send you pictures. We painted that trailer in my shop, and it's going to be, just fine for what I do. So I think that's another part of the puzzle that's allowed us to do what we did. I've always kept my overhead low. I've been a big Dave Ramsey fan for years. We run our household debt free. We, to a certain extent, primarily run our businesses tax free. Obviously, you got that monthly credit card bill, but we never carried over. We have some accounts that are open, but if you're familiar, Dave has that emergency fund. So what's the biggest thing that can happen on a truck? Well, it's a motor. So we have that emergency fund and then some. And it's just been a good model for us to follow both in business and household. I don't want to take that for granted because things change quick. And, another small aspect of our business has been trailer side advertising. Like we've partnered with 3 or 4 different companies over the years, so we're generating revenue on that end. That's been great. And one of those relationships is my insurance company. And insurance is a huge expense. Some guys' insurance expenses may exceed their fuel expenses at this point. But, upon renewal, the agent just said, "You know what, Jason, you're the cheapest policy I write." And I said, "Well, that's because I got old equipment." She said, "Well, yeah, you got old equipment, but you've never had an incident. Anything can happen to anybody out here any day of the week, and I don't take that for granted, and that's a blessing too." Some guys' insurance is like, wow, they tell me what they pay, and that would be a big game changer. It's not the reason we're in business, but it's one of those reasons that all add up.
Trailer side advertising, these are just direct companies that you actually did advertise on your trailer. You're not talking about like a service that puts ads on your trailer or anything of that nature, right?
No, I'm going to say like 20 years ago, there was a push for no zone trailers. Like you'd see stay out of the no zone. Yeah. And then the Marines came out with trailer side advertising. I'm going up and down the road. I'm like, why can't I do that? I got a 48-foot billboard at the time. And at the time, I was building some custom, motorcycles, Harleys, and I advertised for Harleysville Motorcycle Company. And I went to Sturgis and I went to Daytona on their dime advertising for them. And they would get calls at that time. It was kind of the beginning of the internet. And then I was like, you know what? That's a great partnership. But, the biker thing isn't all that I'm about. And then I partnered with Goods Insurance Company. Kind of gave them the sales pitch, and they're like, "Yeah, that's great." And I do I go to Louisville on their dime. I go to Large Car Mag, like all these shows. We did that for 20 years with Goods Insurance, and it's still on Chris's trailer. The gentleman that has the black W9.
That's a reference to Chris Bear, fellow owner-operator, and to whom Jason Shelly has been a longtime mentor in the trucking business, according to Bear. Bear now owns that 2000 Big Bunk Kenworth W900 I mentioned earlier. A story you'll also hear more of in part 1 of this podcast. Find it wherever you're listening or in the post for September 2 at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio.
My dad's trailer for a while, we had Big Rig Mattress out of Georgia. Yeah. They advertised on that for a period of time. Another company I think that might advertise with you guys is BH Tubes. They make stainless steel radiator tubes. Mm-hmm. They advertised on a trailer for a while. I'm kind of getting aggressive on this next trailer I'm putting together with getting advertisers, but I don't know if we've run out trailer side advertising necessarily, but it's not as hot as it was before, just with social media and other avenues where they can get those quick hits. So it was a good run for a long time, and it still is. Goods is still, a client.
It certainly helped. It just helped the long-term viability of everything for sure, and profitability, I guess. Do you guys do anything for the health insurance approach, or if you do that at all, or planning, saving for retirement, those kinds of things? Do you have a system in place for any of that for yourself and family?
We do. Thankfully, my wife's family has a family business that we can buy into health insurance, and we have a premium health insurance through them, which is huge. Here again, we've done HSAs, we've done different avenues, but that's another part that I don't take for granted, that we have that opportunity as family to buy into that. As far as retirement goes, I started some things early on. My dad, like I said, is pretty sharp numbers wise. He encouraged me with some HSAs and smaller things when I had some disposable income. Most of what I've accumulated early on, I've transferred over to precious metals. Actually, in recent years, I've been dabbling in the gold and silver market, and I have a really good friend that's his passion. So he's been mentoring me in that. And as a family, we've invested a lot in her family's business. They have opportunities for investors to invest, and the rate of return is pretty good. So if we have extra, we work back into that. And in the last 7 years, we just started dabbling in real estate. So our current home was paid off. Didn't look like our older children were going to college. Where are we going to put that mortgage payment that that we had budgeted for? So we actually, here again, it's a blessing. We hit Florida early and bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bath tract home north of Tampa, and we've Airbnb that for the last 7 years. That awesome. Property gave us revenue to buy one in Ocala. So now that's been Airbnb for 4 years, and those are generating. We bought south of Charlotte, Pageland, South Carolina, which is straight south, just across into South Carolina. It's that Pageland property does unbelievable. Number one, there's no hotels. Yeah, no hotels that too close, and Airbnb competition is very low. But we'll get people that go to Rock Hill for BMX. We'll get people that go to Charlotte for NASCAR. There's like 3 wedding venues. Like my wife loves this. Like whenever she gets a booking, it's like she hit a home run. She's just so competitive. She's made it a game. But so I guess we're looking at, being self-employed my whole life. I don't have some of the other avenues of retirement funding that some others have that, may have been employed in a corporation, but we're diversifying that way. And at the same time, my wife and I, at our age, we're having those conversations. Like, I don't look to retire. I may slow down, but biblically, there's no verse that I've ever found in the Bible that says you retire at this age. It says to finish strong. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm setting my sights for. I want to be around for grandkids and maybe not have to, get up at 2 o'clock in the morning every morning, long term. But hopefully. And like I said, things change so fast. We man's best made plans, is what the Bible says. We're trying to plan, but who knows?
The future contains multitudes of twists and turns that few of us can predict, of course, but owner-operator Shelly well knows there's still a measure of planning that can help set any owner-operator up for success. To close out this 2-part edition with the August Trucker of the Month, semifinalist for the 2025 Trucker of the Year Award, Shelly's advice for those just getting started or thinking about striking out in the trucking business on their own. He starts out with a reference some of you will have heard in part 1 of the podcast.
I'll focus it on trucking, but overall, what I told our children, and I'll tell others, is if you find something that you love to do, you'll never go to work a day in your life. So find what you're passionate about and figure out how to earn revenue or generate revenue or make a living doing it. So that in trucking, I still look forward to going to work. And sometimes, I'll be out on an open stretch of road and the truck's running good and cool, crisp air. And I'm like, wow, I still say, I'm getting paid to do this. Just find that niche and that passion that you enjoy doing. And there's going to be hard, long days, obviously. Not every day is just an easy day. But like I said, I still look forward to going to work. Along with that, and I don't want to overplay it, but there is something to be said about looking for that niche that somebody or most other people don't want to do. I get it. Like, guys want to drop and hook, guys want to bump the dock, guys want, something that's physically and maybe mentally less demanding. But in what I found throughout my career is if I'm willing to do something the other guy's not willing to do, I might be more consistent in what I have work-wise. And the physical side of my job I know isn't for everybody, but sometimes I think I'm like, well, they can't find anybody else to do what I do because nobody else is dumb enough to do what I do. But there's security that goes along with that, and continually looking for that way to service that customer better and to do what they might not be able to find someone else to do very readily easily. Like the conversation comes up of autonomous trucks. Okay, I see that coming. That's part of the industry. But until they get that truck to back down the alley between, a dozen parked cars and a dumpster, I might have a job.
Yes.
and the 30 years ago it was rails. Everything's going to go on rails. Well, it's got to get from the rail car and the depot to the grocery store or to the dealership or wherever. So I encourage guys to find that niche and just kind of carve away at it. And that may look different throughout your career too. I know I'm very unique in that I've done the same route for 23 years. And, some days I am bored to death and, I'll think, did I close that cooler door? Because I've done it every Tuesday night or Wednesday morning or Thursday afternoon for the last 23 years. I'll physically say it, cooler's closed. I'll say it out loud.
That's not to say all those years have been exactly the same for Shelly, particularly on the return trips after multi-stop deliveries outbound.
In recent years, I'm going to say the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot for a local food bank. That started out of like, hey, can you give us a hand with, cold storage over the weekend because we had a big donation. But now it's turned into a load or two a week. Real local. Hey, can you go grab 3 pallets of this donated bread or this cheese or 4 pallets of water or whatever. But that's the donated food world is very competitive as well. But that's another little niche I've found myself in the last few years. And it started out as like, hey, I can help out, but if you needed me to do 3 days a week, this is how much it's going to cost you. So it's turned into a nice partnership.
That's Overdrive's August Trucker of the Month, Jason Shelly, clearly with his ears to the ground and eyes wide open for possibilities over his many years in business, continuing success through to this day. He's a strong contender for the 2025 Trucker of the Year award, and you can hear the stories of all of his fellow similarly strong contenders in a SoundCloud playlist we've put together for this year's semi-finalists featuring episodes. We've had one each month since January, with 2 more coming down the pike for this month and October, so keep tuned there. I'll embed that playlist in the post that houses this Overdrive Radio edition for September 8th at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio. Find a link to it in the show notes, wherever you're listening. Overdrive Radio is on Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, Overdrive's Facebook page, and any listening platform, really. Leave us a review there if you're enjoying these, and big thanks in advance for it. Big thanks for listening, too. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker-songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Whammock, Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, senior editor Matt Cole, executive editor Alex Lockey, and video editors Lawson Rudisell and Andrew Gwynn. See you next week.